Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, welcome back to Two Bros, One Blockchain. This is episode 4. I know it's been a couple of days, maybe even a week since we posted our first 3 episodes, but I'm really happy and glad to see all of the just positivity and people who have actually subscribed and actually want to see more of the podcast. That's great. Alex, I mentioned I posted something to our subscribers letting them know that you were traveling the world in Japan, so we weren't able to actually get a couple episodes out, but I mean, since our last episode, there's been so much that has gone on. We want to discuss the Trump coin saga and the whole seismic shift that has occurred basically since that meme coin was dropped. I think everyone in the space felt it. And then also just talk about, again, what we're doing with our positions, how, as crypto is ever evolving, how we are changing the way we look at things or just adjusting to current market conditions. And yeah, Alex, is there anything that you are looking to discuss or things that are on your mind? I know you were just on vacation, but
Yeah, so happy to be back. I was in Japan for about 2 weeks there. Definitely watching the markets as I was overseas. Trump coin, right? Who can't not talk about it, right? It was all over. I think everyone's X for about 2 or 3 days there. Felt like everything that got posted was about Trump coin. Then Melania coin, right? It just the ball just keeps rolling. Where does it stop, right? Is there going to be a Baron coin? We don't
it's
know.
coming.
It's coming. I don't doubt it in any point that there's going to be a coin for every single one of Trump's direct family members. Why would you not profit on the meme point cycle here? But don't need to get too deep into the Trump coin situation right now. Just kind of some additional news, right? So Trump just signed in some legislation here, right? It's not announcing that strategic Bitcoin reserve that I think everyone in the market really wants to see happen, right? We know that when this fully comes out, it is going to pump Bitcoin, right? I think there's a clear argument that can be made of how much of that is truly priced into Bitcoin's price at this point. So is that 60%? Is that 50%? Is that 10%? Right? I personally think that when we get the announcement for a true strategic reserve, which is not just the U.S. government folding over what they already hold from that confiscated Bitcoin holding into a reserve, but truly going out and purchasing additional Bitcoin. I think when that is announced, you're going to see a huge push to Bitcoin, upwards of 120K minimum. I wouldn't be surprised if it started its run towards 150K. I do think at that point you're going to be looking at some kind of correction back down. I don't see us going all the way up to 150K and then just continuing onward. There's going to be some big point there where we're going to see a correction. Maybe that comes back down to 120, 110 level. I think we're all hoping that we don't see Bitcoin fall underneath 100K again from this point, but it's definitely not off the table as always. So where am I in terms of my mindset, right? Definitely not liking the looks of a lot of these altcoins. Some though have shown resilience, right? And I think those are the coins that I really want to talk about here today. Just kind of out of what we've been kind of talking about over these first few podcasts in terms of what we like. What do I have more conviction in? And what am I looking at in terms of, okay, when we see Bitcoin hit that 120 to 150K level, what are we going to start finally taking profits on? Because for me personally, that's my first level for taking profits, right? I think when Bitcoin hits 120K, if Ethereum's up towards 5K and alts are, hopefully at least 2-3x a lot of the major ones from where they are now. In the event that happens, right, you have to start talking about taking real profits, right? And I'm not talking 3, 4, 5% of your portfolio, right? Like I'm going to start taking some chunks off some major altcoins that I personally have not liked the look of over these past few weeks. I think one of those that I think is going to do tremendously well, but I'm also extremely, extremely cautious on, right? I'll give two of them. One would be AERO and the other would be Brett, right? So Brett is one of my largest meme coin holdings, right? And then AERO is one of my top 5 holdings in terms of altcoins. So I'm very bullish on them. I think they're still going to do great. I thought they would do better than they've already performed, and obviously we've gotten in on AERO back around that 30 cent level, so it's in a really really good spot. Um, but when you take a look at things like Solana, you take a look at things like Sui, like ONDO, right? It doesn't make me want to hold AERO and things like Brett over some of these coins, right? And I think I'm gonna hand it over to you, Dante, in a second to kind of get your ideas on this. But um, this market, there's so many coins out there now, and there's so many coins. Like Trump coin is such an example of how liquidity can get sucked out of this space in an instant, that you really need to start thinking about where is the money going to flow when it comes in, right? So if you're expecting the strategic reserve to then pump Bitcoin, which in turn will pump Ethereum, which in turn will pump altcoins. Where is the retail money going to flood into these altcoins? And I think that there's a big argument to be made for things like Cardano, things like HBAR, things like XRP, Ethereum, Solana, right? These major players. Do you think that retail is going to come in and buy something like Trump coin? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe some of these smaller coins as well. Like I just don't have that conviction. I don't think it's been shown here based off these last few weeks. And that's why I think it's a better or safer bet to go into some of these larger projects that are going to get that traction if you want a safer bet. But Dante, I'm interested to hear what
Yeah,
you think on the topic.
I think so. I think it probably in the rest of this podcast as well. I think from where we are in the cycle and what we've seen, especially in the last couple of weeks, mainly even these 2 weeks, if it's not already obvious to everyone, is that the asset, like owning crypto is one thing where you own Bitcoin and maybe you dabble in a few altcoins. But the strategy of having like most of your portfolio in altcoins and expecting it to have this broad-based rally across the board for all the coins in the space just because Bitcoin's going up, it's been proven already. And I think yes, there's going to be people who say that we haven't gotten to the point where we get this parabolic altcoin season. It's coming. Like we just have to wait for Bitcoin dominance to go down. We're around the corner from that. That's what the people still believe that that's going to happen. I think that voice is loud, but the reality is, it's even harder right now to say that you should have bought anything but just Bitcoin. When really, if you look at it, Solana has outperformed and held its value against Bitcoin. But outside of Solana, yes, we've had some projects that have come out of nowhere. So like Sui, when you start from zero, you have a better chance of outperforming Bitcoin, obviously. So like Caspa of the last 3 years is up tens of thousands of percent against Bitcoin. But even Caspa has stagnated for a whole year. Sui has done well, but again, it's not saying that Sui is going to keep up with Bitcoin and continue pace because all of the flow of money is obviously going into Bitcoin right now. The ETF is a perfect example. We discussed this, and I'm more of a believer in it now than I was before because of what we're seeing in the market. Is that the passive bit of the ETF has totally changed the game for Bitcoin, but for the rest of the altcoins, that means that they have to have their um, own origins of liquidity that are coming in outside of what is going into those ETFs. So basically, the point is it's the probability of you being successful in altcoins. It has never been lower. It has never been lower, and it's again, we can sit here and say we know what altcoins are going to perform and what aren't, but again, unless they have this extreme fundamental value that's driving it forward, and the market is agreeing with it, and we don't go into a recession and nothing, catastrophic happens to the markets, like maybe it works out. But yes, we've mentioned a few projects that like we think will still do well. Personally, I de-risked from all of the AI altcoins that we were talking about in the last couple of weeks. We discussed that this is where the hyper gambling was going to occur in the markets. Basically, last week or in the last couple of days, we mentioned ourselves in various different projects because I think the play right now is not to be taking unnecessary risk. Crypto's already risky to begin with. Go into the things you have high conviction in, that you're genuinely serious about holding if anything goes wrong with the market, because the point is, if something catastrophic happens in the market, some of these altcoins will never come back to the prices they're at now. And yeah, it's all about capital preservation, in my opinion, at this point in time. And Alex and I were talking off air, like what is the point of holding any of this stuff other than Bitcoin at this point? If we know Bitcoin's going to 2, 3, 4, 500K eventually, the government's basically given it the green light. Bitcoin is money at this point in the eyes of the government. Why not just hold Bitcoin? We have an argument as to why we believe there's projects, but I'm at the place where I'm like, I think Ethereum's going to have a good year or potentially outperform Bitcoin for a little bit. I still believe in Caspa. I still think AERO is going to do well. ONDO is another one that has clearly shown strength. XRP obviously has done very well. Alex is the XRP bull here. He can tell you why he thinks it'll continue outperforming. And then I think things like TAO that haven't, TAO hasn't performed well in comparison to some of this other stuff, but I think has some staying power in the long term. We'll see. I'm not betting the house on any of them doing this. Bitcoin is still the only proven thing.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, right? Like I would make the case for only a few coins, right? And I can count them on my left hand here. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, that's really the three that I would maybe think about holding for the unforeseeable future, right? Like that's like my stockpile in case it's a moon bag, right? It's safe. I know that I'm always going to own some Bitcoin, always own some Ethereum, always own some Solana, and I'm fine with that money going down and up, right? I'm not saying it's going to go up forever. I'm not saying it's not going to go back down to see a potential 150 Solana, right? Whatever you're keeping in that portfolio, right, through that bear market, you're saying to yourself, hey, I'm taking a chance here, right? That the market might continue to go up, that something might happen, and I just want to hold on to that. But everything else outside of those three, I really don't see there being an argument for holding them through the bull run, because why would you, right? You can ride these next few months up, sell out, hopefully, right, a lot higher from where we are at this current time. Take that capital, wait for the bull market to come back down into a bear market, and then throw that money back in and compound your gains, right? And that's really what you want to do, right? That's how you're going to make the most money in this space. Is selling high, buying back low, right? If you're doing the opposite, you're FOMOing in at the top, selling when prices go down because you're like, oh my God, I bought the top and now it's going down. I'm going to lose more money. That's how you get wrecked. And we want to avoid that at all costs, right? And that's kind of why we're here giving you that advice, right? We're trying to give you an idea of what we're doing here, right? So, am I selling anything at this time? No, right? Will I be selling anything in the next few weeks? No, right? But you do need to start to think about, okay, we said that we were going to have an amazing Q1, right? That is what everyone is banking on. We're saying we're going to have an amazing 2025. If we don't start to have an upward trend in Q1, right? Then it starts changing the fundamentals of the bull run, right? That starts changing the fundamental aspect of where we think the market's going to go in 2025. I think most people have the mindset that 2026 is going to be bearish. Not saying it's going to be completely bearish. You're going to see Bitcoin go down to 60,000. I'm not saying that, but are we saying that we're going to see Bitcoin potentially come back down to 100K if it hits 200K in 2025? Like, I think that's very realistic. And let me tell you, if you're holding altcoins through that time, you're going to get absolutely wrecked, right? So as you're paying attention to this channel, right, over these next few months, we're going to be giving you all of our weekly updates, right? So hopefully you don't get swept into that. You don't find yourself in one of those scenarios. That's what we're here for, right? That's the point of us being here, so that we can kind of give you our insight into the market and what we're doing. Again, I'm a very safe player, right? I don't like to take chances with my money, and I don't like to lose it. So I do stick to the larger projects. I keep, I'm in Bitcoin, I'm in Ethereum, I'm in Solana, right? I make sure that a good portion of my portfolio is in these larger projects, just so in case things go south, I don't have to worry that I'm going to lose 60% of my portfolio's value, right? After that, right, I'm looking into projects like Chainlink, right? Obviously, big XRP guy, big ONDO guy. I was just talking about AERO not too long ago. So some of these I do think LCX included, CRV, right? I think they're going to do very, very well. But once we start to hit that 120 to 150K level, right? I'm not going to ride this roller coaster back down, right? I'm going to try and make sure that I'm securing some profits in case we don't see Bitcoin go to 200K, right? You don't want to be in that scenario where you see your altcoins up significantly. Bitcoin's at 150K. Everyone on X is telling you, hey, we're going to 250, 300K, right? We're just going to keep going, and you don't take any form of profit, and then you're looking back at Bitcoin at 100 to 110K, and just wishing that you sold when you were up on a 3 or 4x gain. So we'll continue to give you that alpha, but this is just kind of our standpoint at the time, and I want to reiterate as much as possible. I am not selling at this point. I do think we're going higher. However, I definitely want to make sure that I have an exit plan, because some of these alts I did anticipate being a little bit of a stronger stance right now in the market, and AERO is one of them, right? Like AERO sitting at $1, I think is a great buy, but it also doesn't make me very happy.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing here is, like I said, we're at the point now where it's just you can't really be risking, you can't be going too far on the risk curve, and obviously the higher Bitcoin goes, the more people who are leaning towards the, riskier part of their portfolios and saying, well, I could make a 5x here, but I want to make a 10 to 15x here. But the risk is just so much higher, and we're already in a risky space that it doesn't really make sense. Again, going back to the idea that, dude, where I'm at right now is like, if you're willing to, just stick with the basics, the obvious plays here, I think you're going to end up outperforming a lot of the people who are trying to catch every wave when it comes out, the new hot shiny thing. To me, I think AI definitely has a lasting staying power, and I think TAO and a few others will get that. The mind share will get a large part of the capital that goes into that, but for most of them, you know, they're up 60, 70%, and then now they're down, 60, 70% from where they were at all-time highs. Yes, Bitcoin might do that, but it's not going to do that anytime soon. And most likely, if it even drops 20%, you're going to have billions and billions of dollars trying to buy Bitcoin because it's so cheap, because it's just that mainstream now. Most of the stuff is not mainstream, and I think for a lot of the newer people getting into this space, we have influencers. Unfortunately, we have influencers, we have people who have influence in the space who are pushing you into thinking that your best chance at making it is, gambling meme coins on pump fund, which is crazy because that's already probabilistically such a low chance of winning that most people are just going to get wrecked. So all that being said, all the disclaimers of saying, like, stop being so risky, try to reel it in a little bit. I do want to get into coins we genuinely think are going to do well, and then also, yeah, I mean, I think we talked a little bit about it. I think ETH, I've had this thesis for a long time and it hasn't played out. I've had this thesis that, eventually ETH is going to start outperforming Bitcoin again. Since 2021, basically, Bitcoin has been outperforming ETH. ETH has kind of bled out against Bitcoin. And we've been trying to call the bottom on it because I think it has the ETF, and also the institutional money that is going into crypto, it is definitely going into ETH. It already, if you just look at Trump and the amount of ETH he has bought, whoever is advising Trump on his crypto investments is probably the same guy who's advising Wall Street, and Wall Street does have a lot of favor to Ethereum. ONDO is a perfect example of tokenization. Where is tokenization happening? It's happening on an Ethereum-based project. So I'm very bullish on ETH. I think everybody is, ETH was the mid curve of like the last 4 years, but now I finally think that ETH has enough going for it where at least give us a 2x on ETH. And that's a place where you can, at least for me right now, I'm shoving gains that I've made on these riskier things, the capital that was in things that might not be performing, I'm shoving it in things like ETH, Solana, and then eventually all of this is my plan, and things aren't going to go exactly to plan, but the plan is to take that and then put that all into Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like digital property. We've talked about this on the channel. Like, and it's clearly done so well, and there's so much backing for it that it would just be stupid not to own some, or to, eventually make sure that, 80 to 90% of your portfolio, maybe less, 70% at least, is Bitcoin. So I'm really bullish on ETH right now. I think, again, this might be unpopular because ETH is the biggest, second biggest crypto. There's not much alpha in saying that, but I think it's a good place to keep capital if you think that at least you're going to outperform in some capacity. And then I think we talked about it, AERO. Even though AERO's at $1 right now, it was just a couple of weeks ago at at $2.50 almost. It is an extremely volatile coin. It has a large amount of emissions. The circulating supply constantly increases, so there is sell pressure on AERO, which is why we see. I think this is why we see such a violent kind of aggressive move that AERO usually does when it's dumping or pumping. But I think it'll go back to up to $2, and then from there we have to decide whether we hold or not. It's really just to see where the market's at that point. And then ONDO, I know we both have ONDO. ONDO is one that Alex, you were the one who really forced me to look at this and get an allocation to this. I think there's a big conference coming up, as you were saying. I think just the tokenization narrative, Larry Fink is mentioning it every time he gets to talk about crypto. So I think probably, Ondo's going to catch a bid again, and it's all Ethereum based project. So again, Ethereum is really hopefully going to get some bid out of this as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I like where you were kind of going with all of that, right? I'm gonna kind of double down on some of them. So definitely Ondo, Sui, I think are prime buys right now, right? Same thing with ETH. I think you're gonna get less return, obviously, with Ethereum being the number 2 coin out there, but definitely safe, and you're gonna make money just buying it. Now, if you don't have a ton of capital, then it kind of raises the question of, okay, well, um, what am I gonna get in terms of return from it? Like a 2x, I would say would probably, like, that puts Ethereum close to about 7 grand at that point. Once you start to see Ethereum around 7 grand, right, I will probably have about half of my portfolio sold out. Um, so that would be my only kind of argument against buying ETH right now, is just if you don't have the capital to really make a significant gain, I think at 2x is just about all you're going to get from it before you can safely cash out and retain those profits. I think if you get to 2x from here and you're starting to look at the situation as, hey, I'm going to make it 3x, I think you might get burnt, because at that point, getting up to almost 10K, right? That's probably about my top signal, right? Like, do I think that Ethereum could maybe do 12K? Um, Maybe, right? I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'll tell you what, I won't be around in terms of much of my portfolio being in the market at that point. Because if it really is upwards of 7-8 grand, we're gonna have done so well on so many of these projects. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not well over $1 million in just straight profit this year. Um, it would make absolutely no sense to ride that roller coaster back down, right? If we lose a little bit of gain at the top, because it goes a little bit higher before we roll over, so be it. But at least I have all that capital to chuck back in once we see Bitcoin, Ethereum, and everything come back down significantly, right? And that would be the game that you're trying to play, right? That's how you're going to compound. If you can take 2 or 3K and get it into projects like Ondo, like XRP, like Sui, hopefully do a few X on it, sell out, and then wait for that bear market, you're going to do great. But just kind of coming back to what are my top picks, right? Like what do I like in at this moment at these current levels? So I know I was just trashing it, right, and saying how I would sell AERO first, but I think AERO would also be one of my first buys today, right? $1.04 for AERO is extremely low. Um, if you have the conviction that this market is going higher and we're going to do well over these next few months or this next quarter or two, I think AERO at $1.04 is a great buy. I also think CRV is a great buy at the moment at 79 cents. TAO, right, below $400. Really surprised it's even there, right? I truly did not think that we would see TAO come below 400 for the most part, maybe tap it, but kind of pull back up. But it's currently sitting about $371. I think that that's a great buy. It's a great II play. Hopefully, it gets listed on some more major exchanges, and I think that will really make it pop off. Some other ones that I like, VeChain, right? So I think VeChain is currently sitting at below 5 cents. I think that you could easily see a 3 to 4x if Bitcoin and Ethereum perform well, right? And that's the key. I'm not saying 3 to 4x guaranteed. I'm saying if the market does well, and we see a 2x from Ethereum and you see Bitcoin go towards 150k plus, I do think you'll see VeChain upwards of about 15 cents, which is a little more than a 3x from where it's currently at. And then from there, I would also look into just some of these larger projects, right? Things that are a little more risk, but also a little more reward than Ethereum, right? So if you're not someone that has a high amount of capital and you're saying, hey, Bitcoin, Ethereum, they don't look too enticing to me, right? Hoping for a 2x is not really the game I want to play. I'm hoping that if Bitcoin goes up to 150k, I can get a little more value out of what I'm putting into the market. Then I would say go for things like Chainlink, right? Chainlink, HBAR, they look very, very primed at the moment. I think that they're great buys. They have a lot of potential to move up from here. And it's going to be pretty hard to get burned on them if the market continues up. Things like AVAX, Cardano as well. And that just kind of is all coming back to where do I think a lot of this retail money is going to come into play, right? So if you start to see strategic reserve get pushed out, right? You start to see an XRP ETF this year, a Solana ETF this year. I think you're going to start to see a lot more of these the baby boomers come in with their capital. And where are they going to run? Right? They're not going to run into these meme coins. They're not going to run into these smaller projects. Even though I like things like Jupiter, I like things like Stacks, right? I don't think that they're going to push their money into these areas, right? I think things like ADA, things like HBAR, right? Things like Solana, Chainlink. These are what these people are going to come in with their money and say, okay, these are the bigger projects. I want a little more risk versus reward, in terms of where my money is going outside of Ethereum and Bitcoin. And these are the projects you want to look at. So just some plays that I think are at a good level, will give you a little more reward than, like I said, Bitcoin and Ethereum, without taking on so much risk as opposed to going into some of these lower cap cryptos.
Yeah, I can agree to that. It's Link, HBAR, they're ones from 20, at least from last cycle, that we talked a lot about, and have stuck around. If you held Chainlink, and a funny story, my dad owns both HBAR and Chainlink and has been holding them since 2021. So he's finally on HBAR. I know it was a long journey because it hadn't been doing well, but he owns both of these projects, and now he's finally reaping the rewards with HBAR because it has gone up. But Chainlink, it kind of has been, it's pretty much at the same price it was in 21. But Chainlink was one of the biggest runners, and obviously fundamentally one of the most sound projects in the space. So again, the people who go down the rabbit hole of blockchain, trying to understand what it is in the first place, and then realize, well, Chainlink, HBAR, these are projects with the most connections, the most fundamentals. Yes, I agree. I think they're definitely going to pump. And yeah, those are solid plays. They're very, honestly, like, when we talk about risk in crypto, if the market's going to go up, these ones are going to do well. But they aren't going to, they're not like micro caps that are going to explode 5, 10x overnight type thing. They're legitimate players in the space, and they've continued to be around for many years. I don't think we mentioned it, or I haven't mentioned it on this video yet, but I also think, with TAO, we are seeing some underperformance, but I just think that most of crypto is at a place right now, and they're getting caught with their kind of pants on, pants off, essentially, with all these random meme coins and AI coins, I think we found a lot of good projects that came out of the bear market. TAO was one of them, Caspa another one. Um, that we can basically allocate to in a similar vein to Chainlink or HBAR and assume and kind of know because of the fundamentals being there that all right, these aren't going to disappear overnight. But I think most of the capital has just flown to the other side of the risk curve and is now gambling on memes, um, which is kind of sad. But that's the reality of like what a lot of people are doing. So the people with a little bit of capital, they're not even considering Chainlink or HBAR. They're going straight to the trenches. And I know we wanted to talk about this a little because I think again, guys, for maybe like 2 or 3 weeks there with the AI stuff, because AI and it's perfect. The crypto X AI narrative is perfect because it's also bringing in people who believe in utility when it comes to blockchain. So for me, the meme coins, period, like static memes, it never did it for me. I never got excited about them. I never, bought into the meme coin super cycle type thing. But as soon as they brought in the crypto X AI meme coins, like for whatever reason, that really appealed to me. And for whatever, like the month that I traded them, again, did very well on them, but they are so volatile. And if you end up down 50% on one of these things, there's no guarantee that it ever comes back. And that's the biggest risk that people are taking here. And they might potentially miss the whole cycle and miss like the most obvious plays, ETH, XRP, what else? Solana. Like none of these projects are projects that like are a mystery to people, but
I,
you might miss out on gains because
yeah.
you're too busy gambling.
I like where you're going with that, right? Because when you talk about some of these projects, right, you you can kind of take a look back. Like I over the summer, I continued to DCA in, right? And some of that positions that I put in earlier in the summer, right, we kind of saw that really low point, right? Before things started to pick up in the fall. And I was looking at some of those investments that I DCA'd into, like Solana, etc., right? Like some of those bigger plays, and they were down a good amount, but I never once sold, right? And why did I not sell? Because I knew, right, that we were going to continue to regain what I put in, what I lost, and then some. And I never lost sight of that. I think that once you start to get away from that concept, though, of hey, I'm not going after Chainlink, Solana, Ethereum, XRP, right? These big players, and you start going after these random meme coins. Like you were saying, you are now running the risk that you're going to put money in, it's going to dump 50%. And unlike those projects where you have conviction of hey, if I hold for the long run, I'll most likely regain what I've lost here. At least hopefully get close to a break even point before I take that money out. You're not going to have that ability. And that's how you truly get wrecked, right? If you buy the top, say you bought Trump meme coin at $70, right? When it was 60, I was still seeing people say that they were buying all over the place, right? Trump meme coin is going to keep running, keep running. It's been 3 days and it went up almost over a 7x, right? Like, what are you expecting from this market? If you're throwing, you only have $3,000 and you throw it all into Trump coin at $60, $70, and now you're sitting here. I think it's what, close to 30 at the moment, right? Could it come back up? Sure. But who knows, right? It might take you a very, very long time, or it might never come back up to $70. You just don't know. And I think that's where, uh, again, that's my big stance in this space, right? Buy
Yeah,
quality projects because
high quality.
I'm not gambling, right? If you want to gamble, then that's on you, right? And we will give out some of those plays. Like I said, Dante, I know you've made some really, really good plays. It's just not how I trade personally.
Yeah, the thing is like you have to look at the short-term trades as short-term trades. You can't be holding these things after they've gone 3 or 4x up. The Trump coin release and just like I think we talked about it, like that was definitely signal to me to pull capital immediately. And now if you look at like some of the stuff we talked about it, and it's not about grave, like dancing over people's graves type thing that ended up getting caught up in this stuff, but it's like it's a rinse and repeat cycle, guys. The same insiders, the same influencers will pump these things up, make absurd amounts of money, and guess, use your brain. Like who is it that is buying the tops of these things when they tell you Farcoin's at $1 billion, it's going to 10 billion. it might go to 10 billion. There's no denying that, it has the potential to. Anything in the space can pump to ridiculous valuations, but it's like, what is the principle behind what you're doing there, and when you're buying that? What is the plan if you're down 50%? So we've talked about it basically, guys, in the last 2-3 weeks. All of the signs the market have told me to take on less risk, move to more quality projects, and that's what I've done. I think, okay, we haven't really talked about Caspa, but to XRP is to Alex what Caspa is to me. So I have this unwavering conviction in Caspa that I think that it's gonna be great.
Buy it if you're between the two. Buy XRP.
Buy
Let me tell
XRP
you.
because it's out this year. It has outperformed. In the long run, we can, let's see what happens. But Caspa is a perfect example of, all right, listen, this thing, all right, it hasn't performed the best, but it is not dumping 10, 20, 30, 40% overnight, and I'm failing to fall asleep because of the fact that I'm holding it. Caspa or any of these other projects we've talked about, I think potentially have the chance to outlive the rest of this garbage that's out in the market, but there's no guarantee, of course. And again, if I'm going to risk the money, I'm going to risk it on things that I truly believe in, or I think is actually going to, outperform Bitcoin at some point and make a lot of money. And so again, things that are being looked at by the institutions, that are being adopted by the institutions, and instead of it trying to, try your hand at the casino, own the casino, own Solana, own Sui, own Ethereum. That's where everyone's going to gamble. Well, own the platforms that they're gambling on. You're the house essentially at that point. So that mindset has totally been kicked into my head, like completely. That's where I sit. So honestly, my portfolio, and even Alex, your portfolio, to most people at this point would feel incredibly boring, because it's actually doing simple things. It's not actually too complex or crazy, but that's just where I'm at right now. Again, the market is sending me signals of exhaustion, that there's nothing left to pump. Like, people are looking for something to pump, and usually when we get to that point, it's a top signal for the gamblers, for the high risk stuff. But now what I think is happening, and this is what I'll just add on to this, and then you can give your final points or what you're thinking, Alex, on this, is that now I think, again, it's all about what's going to be driven by institutions, what the big boys are buying, and they're buying ETH, they're buying Link, they're buying, I don't think Trump has bought XRP, but I'm sure there's going to be major players that come out and say, I'm buying XRP. So it's like, yeah, I want to get exposure to this stuff, and I want to make money on it, just because it's becoming obvious at this point. And then all of that capital, like we said, can go back into ETFs, can go back into ETFs, meaning like the Bitcoin ETF or Bitcoin. Long-term strategy here. We want to be around, being able to make this podcast for years, not having to quit after 3 months because we lost it all in Trump coin. Like.
Yeah, I really liked the word you used, right, in terms of exhaustion, right? So, when we talk about this market being exhausted, I'm not saying that the bull run is exhausted for the rest of this year. I'm just saying, in the moment, right, we've all been sprinting, and you can take a look at these altcoins and see the exhaustion, right? So, what do I mean by that? I mean that if you look at Bitcoin, we have just been in one continuous range, right? We've been hovering somewhere between the low 90s, right, and 100, and now 9K with our new all-time high. We're actually sitting very, very close, right? We're on the upper end of that range. Now we're sitting close to about 105. I think we touched 107 today again. Ethereum, right? Pretty much where it's been. It's at 3,300, ranging between 3K and 4K, right? For a while now. But when you take a look at the altcoins, minus a few, right? So take XRP out of the picture, take ONDO out of the picture. When you take a look at these, right, you are seeing that they are slowly bleeding, right? They are bleeding out. And that's what we're talking about in terms of exhaustion, right? We are not going to see that exhausted feeling kind of leave this market, I think, until you see Ethereum truly break 4K and start to push up. Because until that, everyone's just getting so tired of watching their altcoins go up and down, and not putting in that next leg up. And that's
Mhm.
leading to this bleed, right? And that's why we're seeing things like TAO below $400, AERO sitting just above $1, right? they need some life to be pumped back into them. And do I think that's going to happen? Yes. But until we see a true leg up for Ethereum, and I know, like, I was looking at World War Crypto, another very popular influencer out there. He was talking today about how, Solana is moving up and XRP is moving up, and how these are examples of how we don't need Ethereum to move potentially for alt season to come. And I couldn't disagree more, right? Like, I definitely like a ton of his points. Um, but I strongly feel that we're not going to see a true alt season until Ethereum moves. And again, can you pick out XRP? Can you pick out Solana, right? Can you pick out something that's getting ETF hype? Things like that, right? Like, of course, right? You can take those scenarios and say, hey, look, they're doing well. They're going up compared to Ethereum and Bitcoin, etc. But overall, alts are bleeding, right? Like, I'm looking over here at everything that I have marked, right? And if you look at all of them on the 30-day, most of them are ranging somewhere between 10 and upwards of almost 40% in the red from where they were 30 days ago, right? Like, that is absolutely horrible. That is not what you want to see. That is a slow bleed. And it hasn't happened overnight, so it's kind of not as shocking because we didn't see that 30%, 40% dip overnight. But we are 30 to 40% down on a lot of these major alts. So just keep that in mind, right? It's, if you think the market's going up, which we think it is, and I think it's a good time to accumulate. But I think a lot of people have been told to accumulate for so long now, right? Probably back since late summer, maybe early fall, that we're just exhausted, right? Everyone is exhausted. They're taking their money out. They don't want to move or throw anything additional into this market until they see a true sign that the market is moving up, right? And by the time that happens, it's going to be too late, right? If Ethereum hits 4K and now it goes to 5, well, guess what? All these alts are going to run up so fast that you're not going to be able to catch any of it. So I know we said it just a week or two ago that we DCA. I would say that I think we're getting pretty close to a local bottom if we're not already here. That DCA mentality is what you should still be thinking of. But why do we DCA and not go all in, right? Because if we go lower, we have more capital to deploy. But overall, still structurally bullish, but I do think that we're exhausted at the moment until we see a true move up with Ethereum.
Yeah, I think the what you should get out of this episode, if you've managed to listen this long, which we appreciate you if you're still here, is our stance right now, or at least my stance, and I think Alex, you're basically saying the same thing, is unless you're in quality projects that you believe long term, in a world where crypto is adopted, where the U.S. government is compiling a digital asset stockpile, you got to be looking at the assets that are going to be included in that or have the potential to be, not random meme coins, not this hyper gamble, very risky, potentially the next greatest thing in crypto AI, whatever. That stuff is only there right now to extract capital from you into other people's hands, insiders, influencers, people who are basically running cabals. So I think it's oversimplified for yourself. The best advice I could give myself 4 or 5 years ago was just keep it simple, buy Bitcoin. I would have so much more money now than I do. And I'm gonna take the lessons from my prior experiences and say, okay, well, in times like this, when the market looks exhausted, when people are looking for anything and everything to pump, kind of and have an attention span of 6 hours or can't hold on to something for a day, that's usually a sign that the market is probably in need of a flush. But guess what? It's going to flush out the garbage, and hopefully, these bags that we're talking about, these projects that we've done extensive research on, will have their time to outperform Bitcoin, and we'll make a ton of money, and we'll all be extremely happy. But if it's not these projects we're discussing, then basically anyone who's invested in crypto is down. So, and is not making money. So that's not good. So yeah, I guess that's where I feel like we're at in this episode. I feel like we didn't have like any real specific topics other than guys, this is what we're doing and how we're positioning. And we can hope that the market can go up from here, but there's no guarantee. And yeah, if the bags that I'm holding now go down 30% from here, I'm buying as much of them as I can, not crying because I realize like, you know, I invested in the shitcoin basically.
Yeah, and I think just some key takeaways, considering we really discussed this market in detail at this current moment, right? So exhaustion, right? Things look bad, but I don't think structurally they are, right? I think Bitcoin is still just put a new all-time high. By no means am I saying that we are out of a bullish structure. I think we're going to do well over these next few months. I have not sold anything, right? That's point number two. I have not sold anything. I'm still structurally bullish. Third point, right? We talked about the idea of when you want to start taking profits, right? And this gave me kind of an insight into what projects do I want to hold a little longer throughout 2025 and where's going to be my first take profit levels, right? AERO is one of them, right? I don't like the fact that it's near a dollar. I think it's going to still do well, but it's showing me that if we were to hit that higher BTC price and Ethereum price and come back down, it's showing me that AERO is going to get absolutely wrecked. So that would be a position that once I'm up, I want to get out. And for me, that's a $3 level. We got in about 30 cents. I have a rule of thumb personally where anything that hits a 10x, right? Um, unless it's Bitcoin, I truly think you need to think about taking profits on it, right? You don't want to round trip a 10x.
Also for a 5x, bro. Are you kidding?
He'll take a 5x, but
Alex has got diamond hands, man. He's not selling XRP. This man is crazy.
and that's the thing, right? It's not just a 10x on every project here. It's just where I think is realistic, right? AERO hit $2.40 not too long ago. If I think that we're going to see Ethereum go past 5K and Bitcoin go towards 150, I think $3 is a very realistic price target for myself, right? It's a 10x from the 30-cent entry that we got in on, and that's realistic for me, right? If you got in an AERO at $1.04 today and you got out at $3, right? A 3x, that might be realistic for somebody else. So it's just having that goal in mind and understanding, hey, at that level, I want to take profit, because when we finally hit $3, it's going to be extremely hard to sell. I promise, right? You're going to say, hey, I just 3x my money. Bitcoin and Ethereum are on a tear. The entire market looks euphoric. Everyone's posting positive things. How could I possibly sell, right? AERO's going to $10 or whatever project you think is going to continue to go up, and you need to remember to take those profits. And that's what we'll be sharing here over these next few weeks, right? When we start to see these massive pumps, we're going to start talking about which projects we're taking profits on, where we think the next cycle is going to be in terms of, will it be AI, will it be meme coins, etc. Right? I still have that conviction that we're going to start to see kind of these different narratives play out. The best traders hold, right, throughout the bull run. The expert level traders are going to rotate gains in and out of each narrative, which is extremely, extremely difficult to do. Same thing with playing these meme coin plays, right? It's extremely difficult. Overall, someone's going to be left holding the bag, right? And what do I mean by that? I mean that we're all putting money into a bag, and if someone makes a crazy profit, right? You see someone, hey, they 10x $1,000 into $100,000, right? And they cashed out. Great for them, right? You see one of those stories, just know that $99,000 came from somewhere else, right? It came from somebody else's pocket, and somebody else is out of that money. So just keep that in mind when you're trading. For every winner, there's a loser. As always, we're calling out these plays on X, right? If you want up-to-date information on which coins we think are good in the moment, what we think is not looking too well, and where we think the current Bitcoin and Ethereum status leaves the market at that time, which we try to give pretty regular or daily updates on. Please make sure you're following us over on X. We'll leave that link below in the description. But that's all I have for now. Dante, anything on your end?
Yeah. Last thing is, guys, we have the receipts. We're making these calls. Go check out the Twitter. Go check my personal Twitter out. Go check out two bros, one blockchain. Go check out Dante DeFi, and it's all going to be, everything that you hear here is on those channels as well. But the point is, we told you that AI was going to be a big narrative. We also told you exactly when to buy and when to sell. The point is, we're not magicians. We don't actually know what's going on in the markets. We're just trying to play the emotions of other people. We're trying to, do our best to make gains when things are good, but then realize that capital preservation is the most important thing. If I'm going to try and preserve capital, it's going to be in something like Bitcoin because that's the only proven, crypto at this point. And yeah, other than that, I think you get the point. We've had a good chat today. I appreciate any of you guys who have been here. If you're still here for 50 minutes of us rambling, it's only going to get better from here. We've had 4 episodes now, 3 back to back. This one, we've had some time away from each other or practicing or being on the pod. So it's only going to get better from here. So thank you so much for subscribing. And I think they asked us to make a Discord as well. So we're probably going to make a Discord eventually.
Yeah, I like the idea of a Discord just so we can answer questions real time and open that feedback up as opposed to comments. Also, feel free to DM us right on X as well. We'll answer questions that way or leave them in comments on these videos. But yeah, Discord will definitely be coming out in the near future.
Word. That's all I got, man.
Yep. As always, appreciate everyone's time and thanks for listening. And two bros, one blockchain. We're out.
Peace.